Hi, everyone. My name is Dina Alexander, and I am the founder and president of Educate and Empower Kids. We are an organization that started a little more than 4 years ago. It started quite simply. I'm going to share a little bit about my story with you. One day, I was just on Facebook and I read an article about teen porn consumption, and it blew me away. It was really shocking to me at that time. I have three kids. At that time, the oldest was in seventh grade and my youngest was in the second grade. And the things that I read scared me. I felt helpless. I went online to look for various resources to help me out in talking about this stuff with my kids and finding out what was the situation in our culture and around the world when it came to porn. And it started me on a path that I had not planned. I was going to write a few lessons and put them on Pinterest and pat myself on the back. And instead, as I reached out to friends and family all over the country, I realized that I wasn't alone in my fear when it came to online dangers, that everybody seems to be scared. And at first I thought, well, maybe it's just my religious friends. And it wasn't. It was Christian, atheist, Democrat, Republican. Everybody has the same fears right now when it comes to the culture. We see what's going on. We see that things are not quite right, that our kids have amazing advantages and amazing access to technology, but we don't know where it's taking us. And I felt a great fear, but I felt like I needed to do something. It was like a fire inside me. So I got some friends and family together and we started Educate and Empower Kids. And over the last few years, we've written several books to help parents talk to their kids. One of them is called How to Talk to Your Kids About Pornography, of course. And some of our favorites among our audiences are the 30 Days of Sex Talks, Empowering Your Kids with Knowledge of Sexual Intimacy. We have one for age 3 to 7, 8 to 11, and 12 plus. We also wrote 30 Days to a Stronger Child, which helps fill our accounts. It talks about helping our kids fill their emotional, physical, intellectual, social, and spiritual accounts, and that by keeping our accounts full, we're going to be strong, we're going to be ready for tougher times, but we're also not going to be seeking out for addictive substances. Within the past few months, we've also just released our first children's books. 2 of them are about healthy body image, one for boys, one for girls, that address a lot of really interesting topics. They have some great discussion questions at the end. But this is the book that inspired this discussion for today. It's called Noah's New Phone, A Story About Using Technology for Good. Because it's so important that we talk about online dangers, but it's also important that we inspire our kids. We have to replace those negative behaviors that we see in ourselves, in others, online, replace those with something better. Get our kids dreaming and thinking about a better world where people are kinder online, where people know how to talk about tough topics online without being rude and offensive. And I love the Benjamin Franklin quote, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." And this has been something really important for me and for my family and in the work and the research that I have done. And so that often leads me to think about, okay, what would keep our kids out of therapists' offices in the future? What would keep our kids safe online? And a lot of that has to do with parents creating a home of openness and being able to talk about tough topics. I am a big believer in discussions and talking. Every night at dinner happens to be our time. And I'm a big believer in creating and establishing rituals that we can have every day in our homes that allow intimacy, that allow conversation. When my kids were younger, it used to be when they would go to bed at night, that's when they would say, "Come lay with me, Mom," and we would have a discussion. They would tell me about their day and I would ask questions. But as they've gotten older, for some reason, the dinner table has been a great place for us to talk about terrorism, to talk about divorce, to talk about death, to talk about sex, to talk about pornography, to talk about social media, to talk about bullying. All of these things that we need to be talking to our kids about because everyone else is talking and giving their version of it, that they need to know us. And we need to remember as parents that we love our kids more than anybody and we know them better than anybody. So that's why we need to establish ourselves as the source. we need to be the ones sharing the most important information with our kids. Research shows that we believe the first source we hear, so we want to be that first source. And when we tell our kids, when we talk about tough topics like sex, like pornography, like bullying, we're telling them that we're open to those discussions, that you can come and ask me anything. And it's also important for us to say those words. You can ask me anything about this. Now, a lot of parents that we've talked to all over the country have a lot of fears. And this is something that I think each of us needs to take a little inventory of. What is it that we are fearful of when we want to talk about social media with our kids, in setting rules with social media, in talking about other online dangers? And whenever we go one-on-one, or I talk with parents more specifically, their fears are usually much smaller than they think they are. They kind of go, oh, I'm scared to talk about sex with my kids, or I don't want to talk about pornography. I might get them more curious or something. Those fears tend, when we analyze them, tend to get smaller and smaller. And we will realize that these conversations are also just not one-time discussions, but that they are ongoing discussions, because we open the door and we start creating that home where our kids can ask us anything. And so, but I think first, in order to keep our kids safe, we need to understand the dangers. What is it that's going on in the world? What is the world that our kids are living in? And I think it's important to note that it's a different world than when you and I were kids. I'm 40 years old right now, and things are different. I grew up in a print-based culture where my parents got a newspaper every day. That is where the big source of our news was, or was a 1-hour news program in the evening, and that was it. Whereas now we are in a completely image-based culture, that we get most of our information from videos, just like this, or from pictures. And most of us are image illiterate. Most of us don't understand how to read images, how to understand what is going on in a picture, what is the message that is trying to be told to me or sold to me. Also, part of that world that our kids are living in is one that bullying is becoming a little more frequent, and that is, again, because of that time that we're spending behind screens. It's been said that 25% of all adolescents and teens have been bullied, and that over 50% of them will never report it to their parents. And so this right now is a great discussion to have with our kids at dinner tonight. What is bullying? Where have you seen this? How can we avoid it? How can we be better online? And so this can help our kids to really focus their behavior. Who am I online? Is it the same person that I am offline? How can I merge those two identities into one, so that I'm not portraying one person to my parents and portraying another person to my friends? Because this is becoming easier and easier to do the more time we spend behind screens. So we need to that's something that we really need to focus on as parents, is blending those two identities. And we're finding more and more that social media is just as addictive as any other screen activity, just as addictive as pornography or gambling. There is so much that is going on with social media. It is where our kids live. And this was a really hard thing for me as a parent to grasp and to accept. When my daughter first wanted to get on social media, she's 17 now, I did not want that to happen, and I put that off as long as I can. I have a 14-year-old son who is still not on social media, and I'm trying to put that off as long as possible, but my days are numbered, and everybody else is on, right? So this is where kids live, and it's really important for us as parents to acknowledge that this is where our kids live, that this is where so much of our kids' activity is happening. And to take them off, for some kids, it's the equivalent of social suicide. But it's also where we're seeing a lot of behavior. So we're talking about the negatives first here when it comes to social media, before we start talking about what are the great things that we can do with social media. But since so many of our kids are on there, it's vital that we talk about it. So what we're finding a lot of is more bullying, less rules, less standards. We're getting more used to seeing more deviance. We're used to seeing kids that are now sexting. that are self-objectifying in ways that you and I never would have done. Now, again, as we talk about social media, we talk about safety, we need to take inventory of our own lives. That is, I think, the biggest step in moving forward and keeping our kids safe online. We need to be thinking about, where are we spending our time? How much screen time are we using per day? How much screen time is devoted to homework, to television, to social media? Helping our kids create this inventory of our lives will help them to see where they're spending their time, but also we as a family. Are we creating rituals at home where we can talk about healthy experiences, where we can demonstrate healthy behavior for our kids, where we can be building and binding our families as one? This is a huge and important thing for us to be discussing with our kids. Now, as we continue to take inventory, it's really important for us to know about filtering and monitoring. What filters and monitors do we have on our laptops, on our desktops, on our phones? Even at the router level, there are a lot of great filtering devices. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about filters because there are so many out there. But every Apple product comes with built-in filters, as well as Microsoft. If you Google parent filter or filtering for Apple, filtering for Microsoft tutorial, you will find tons of tutorials that will help you easily, within minutes, set up blocks on your devices. Even on your mobile devices, there are lots and lots of filters that we can use to help our kids stay safe. This to me is about giving our kids a leg up. It's not a one and done. When you talk to your kids about online safety and being true to themselves online, it's not enough to just put a filter on or put a block on our phone and think that we're done. That's step 1 of 10, right, when it comes to parenting. I know a lot of times in my life and in my parenting, there's things I've wanted to just check off, but we can't check off parenting, and we certainly cannot check off digital parenting, as it were. So one of the filters that I like is OpenDNS. And so if you Google OpenDNS, you can go to their website, and the one that we use is free, but it's at the router level, where it protects every device that comes into our home if they're on our Wi-Fi. On our phones, we tend to use NetSanity, but Covenant Eyes, Mama Bear, there's tons and tons of great filters out there. So we use, we happen to be a family that uses Apple products, and so we will use the settings in there with family share, etc. But then we also add on top of that another layer with NetSanity. But these are not perfect filters. If our kids are on Instagram, if they're on Facebook, on Twitter, on Tumblr, they can still easily find dangerous, violent, and pornographic images. And that's something that we want to avoid as much as possible. And so, a lot of people have asked me, okay, what is it? Why do you talk about pornography so much? Like, what is the big deal? And a lot of people focus on the addictive side of it. And I agree that pornography can be very addictive to people. But I am more concerned about the millions and millions of boys and now girls who are growing up watching repeated images of women in a position of powerlessness. This is what frightens me. This is what worries me, because everything that I have ever seen in pornography is just continually, to say that women are being objectified, to me is a punchline at this point. It is so far beyond objectification. It is to the point of humiliation. It is to the point of degrading women into nothing. That position of powerlessness is displayed in every single pornographic thing that I have seen. Last year, I did a small tour where I spoke at different places, and I spoke to several law enforcement. And one of the things that shocked me the most was I had thought that child pornography was something that you had to be looking at pornography for a really long time to find it. And several members of law enforcement were like, no, that might have been in the old days, but now they're finding that kids are stumbling upon it because even child pornography has become so readily available that it's within a few weeks or few months of just dabbling in pornography that our kids are stumbling upon things as disgusting and terrible as child pornography. But even just taking aside, say, regular pornography, we have to realize that what is being taught in there is nothing artistic, it's nothing beautiful, and it's nothing intimate. So when we talk about pornography, we also have to talk about its opposite. We need to talk about sexual intimacy so that they understand, so that our kids understand the difference. Because there's no intimacy in pornography. There's no hand-holding, hugging, very little kissing, if any. It is always about the act, and it is always some sort of body-punishing act for women. And as we talk about pornography, we need to help our kids understand that it's natural to be curious because they're going to come across it. Their friends are going to be watching it. Their friends are going to be talking about it, especially middle school and high school. They need to understand that it's natural for them to be curious about sex, to be curious about seeing pornography, and that is okay, that is a natural biological necessity for us in the human race is to be curious. We want them to be curious, but they also need to know how to avoid it. So when it comes to younger kids, they need to know what it is and where they might be exposed. They need to know what the word pornography is, even when they're little, because if you're handing them this to play a game or to just go online and look at a video, there's a very likely opportunity for them to see pornography. So they need to know what that is. And it can be a very simple definition. It does not need to be very involved. You can just say, pornography is people with little or no clothing on. And if you see something like that, come and talk to me. Like it can be that simple for young 3, 4, 5-year-old children. You know your kids, so you know what they will respond to, what they will understand. But they need to understand where they might see it. Is that going to be on a phone, on a laptop, at a friend's house, on the school bus, at scout camp, at Girl Scouts? Where might they be exposed? And we need to continually remember for ourselves and for them that it's better to be prepared than to be scared. So we want to prepare them. Preparing them with this information is not stealing their innocence. It's not creating curiosity. They're already going to be curious no matter what. This is about empowering them with knowledge. It's like knowing, ahead of time, hey, there might be this situation, but mom and dad are here for you. We're going to prepare you for it. So knowing what it is, knowing where they might find it. We also want to be able to give young kids particularly, and older kids, the run plan. So having a run plan means that you will be able to run means, to run away from it, to get away from it. The you in the run plan is to understand it. So to talk to mom and dad about it so they can help you make sense of it. Most kids don't understand what they're seeing. It's usually a shock to their senses. They might be simultaneously traumatized and aroused by it. They might be just curious about it, or it might scare them. That is where they need to be able to come to you. That's why we want to be able to talk about it with them first before they've seen it, so they know they can come and talk to mom and dad. The N in the run plan is to never seek it out again. So we want to encourage our kids as much as possible to never seek it out again, to help them know that there are ways to find out good information about our bodies, about sex, without looking at pornography. That you will tell them answers, that you will show them books, that they can learn about anatomy, that they can learn about sex without it being in this violent, misogynistic atmosphere of pornography. Now with older kids, it's important for them to know that information as well, where they might see it, what they should do if they do see it. But they also, it should be discussed with them, how they can, get away from a situation, because it's going to be at lunchtime, it's going to be after school, a friend is going to have it. What can they do? And it's also important for older kids to know why. Why does pornography exist? This is a discussion I've had over and over again with my kids. Why do we allow this exploitation to happen? Because if we talk to our kids about pornography, we need to talk to them about the opposite, which is healthy sexual intimacy. Now, I'm not going to go too much into that, but again, because you can check out our books, 30 Days of Sex Talks, if you would like more information. And our website, educateandempowerkids.org, also has tons and tons of information about talking to your kids about healthy intimacy. So now in talking about all of these topics, it's important for us to talk about media literacy. Why is it important to talk about media literacy? Well, first, the culture, whether it be pornography or any website, any magazine our kids pick up, any website, any social media, they're being exposed to media. And like I said before, most of us do not know how to read images. And I love this quote I'm going to read to you from Dr. Gail Dines. And she says, "Images construct the way we think in the world. They jump off the pages and into our lives, our identity, and our sexuality." And so this is why it becomes so important for us to talk about media literacy, so that when they are exposed to pornography, again, they have a better picture of what that really is. Same thing when they come across any other hypersexualized media, or when they come across violent media. They need to be able to understand what they're really seeing. And this can start out very basic, where we look at an advertisement and we ask, what's going on in that ad? Who made that ad? Why was it made? Who is the audience? What's the overall message? What's the hidden message? Now, you don't have to do all of these questions, but these are just some questions that we can thoughtfully discuss with our kids to help them start building that understanding of images, because everybody is selling something, even on social media. Something that I've liked to show is with my kids is my own social media account. And I've talked about in different audiences, what am I selling? When in my personal page, I show different pictures. And what am I selling? Well, I'm selling good mommy, right? I show pictures of, me with my kids doing service, right? Good mommy forces her kids to do service. Good mommy organizes her Legos beautifully. Good mommy takes her kids on trips, right? So we all have these different things that we're selling. But again, it's important for our kids to understand that it's not just them, it is every single one of their friends that is selling something on social media. And we need to understand what those real messages are, so that we don't worry about if we weren't invited to that party, so that we're not always obsessed with getting 1,000 likes, so that we can have an understanding of what is really going on here, so that we can get to the heart of the matter, so that we can see that this is a human being who maybe she's selling something, or maybe he's trying to portray something that's really cool and he's out with his friends drinking, but what's really going on there, so that they're, one, not judging other people, but so that they can kind of see through some of the facades that all of us are putting out there. When it comes to social media, like I said before, it's super important that we have set up some rules and boundaries. It's obvious. If your kid is on any certain social media, you need to be on it with them. If your kid is on Instagram, you better be on Instagram. You better be following them. You better know how to find out if they have a fake Instagram account, if they have a Finsta. It's very common. You need to know about that. You need to be having open discussions with them about what they're posting. What are their friends posting? What does it mean when we post certain things, certain pictures? But as we comment, are we commenting kindly? Are we being helpful? And so as we talk about social media, it's a great jumping off point for us to talk about using technology for good. There is so much good technology out there that we need to take advantage of it. It is not just about teaching our kids the no's and what do we do to avoid this and that. There is so many beautiful things. Just in the last few months, I've looked at and I've thought so much about the Me Too movement. This is not a movement that could have taken place without social media. There's no way that the women of the world could have pulled together and to share these experiences without the blessing of social media. So there are amazing good things we can do. So again, this is a great time for us to take inventory. Every piece of technology out there, laptops, phones, has potential for evil and for poor usage, but it also has a huge potential for good. We need to be teaching our kids to uplift, to teach others, to learn, to manage their lives with technology. This is where we're at. This is where we're going, is all technology based. So we need to be setting that example. When we post something kind online, it is okay for us to show our kids, hey, look what I posted, or hey, look at this article I found. But we also can be helping our kids to discover useful apps and useful websites. There is a great website called justserve.org where you can find service all over the country. There's a great app called Be Golden. It's called Golden Opportunities, and that is an app that you can find service opportunities, again, in your local area. All of these opportunities for good are becoming easier and easier for us, and we need to take advantage of them. Teaching our kids that these phones are not just pacifiers, especially at a young age. My kids are older now, and I was really lucky that my youngest was 4 when I got a smartphone. So the temptation was very different for me. But as I've talked with young moms, I ask them, what are the good things that you can have your kids do with phones, so that you can, if they are going to be asking for them. One is to watch educational videos, of course, right? That is a good use of technology. Another great thing that we can use is reaching out to friends and family, to FaceTime with other people, to keep in touch with grandma, to make a little video for grandma on the Marco Polo app and share it. Another great thing is, just creating with drawing. There are some great drawing apps out there for kids. And then limiting that screen time. I know we ourselves need to, again, just keep trying. We're not going to be perfect. I think all of us have to just let go of the idea that we're going to be perfect at this. We're going to make mistakes. You just keep moving forward. I haven't talked to one expert in my life that doesn't have some amazing horror story of how they have screwed up technology in their home, or they've screwed up a sex talk in their home. Everybody had screwed up with their kids. It's okay. That's just how we are. We're just going to keep pressing forward. But again, helping our kids realize the amazing power they hold within their hands when they hold technology. We can literally change the world with a cell phone. I would have never imagined that as a teenager, even in college when the internet was brand new. I could not have imagined that I could change the world with a smartphone. But nowadays, we can start a movement. We can start changes. We can reach out to experts on Twitter and have them answer back instantaneously. That we can talk with friends and family all over the world. That we can do business with people all over the world. That we can stand up for people. Helping our kids see all of these opportunities is going to make all of us better and make our culture better. I think what's also really important to realize is that we can have these discussions together. It's not something that as we do this, that I am just going to tell my kids, these are the rules, this is how it is, but creating those rules together with our kids in a family council. It's not just going to be, oh, mom and dad have all the rules. I have found over and over again that doesn't work well. That to get your kids' input, because they are very observant. We need to combine our wisdom with their tech savvy to make the world a better place, to create that movement, to create that positive movement. And so this is something that it's going to be a big focus for us this year at Educate Empower Kids. You can keep checking back on our website for more resources. We are also, during the duration of the I Am Mom Summit, we are doing a giveaway on our Instagram. If you tag a friend, you will be entered to win one of our books. We'll have 5 books that we're giving away, and basically you can pick whichever of the books that I have shown today that's in that giveaway. Right now, like I said, right now we have our newest is our kid books, and so these are kind of like our most popular books right now. But any book is up for that giveaway if you tag a friend on Instagram on any day on January 23rd, 24th, or 25th. We are also doing a Kindle sale on our adult books. So all of our adult books will be on sale on Amazon, the Kindle versions, if you want to check on that. Any questions that you guys have for me, please feel free, reach out to us again through Instagram or Facebook. We are also on Twitter, or you may email us at info@educateempowerkids.org, and we would be happy to answer any questions. This was a short time, and so I thank you for watching with us. Again, I'm Dina Alexander, and thanks so much for listening.